Yeah.
ATP, what it do with your boy Claymore Rain? Salute. Shout out to all my subscribers. If this is your first time tapping into this content, listen, I'm gonna invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit your bell icon so you are getting alerts when all this content drops. So Jaron Boots Ennis, oh man, the story just continues to get more and more interesting. So word comes in pretty much around late yesterday afternoon. Word got out that there was a fight that Eddie Hearn and I guess Jaron Boots Ennis' team was trying to coordinate with Charles Conwell. If you guys aren't up to speed with who Charles Conwell is, he's an up-and-coming junior middleweight contender. Actually had two pretty good convincing fights just recently. Last fight, I call him the body snatcher, ended it with a devastating body, a devastating body shot, and really just, shown and proven to be one of those up and coming junior middleweights in the game. And word is, Jaron Ennis is entertaining going to 154, or maybe even just pretty much going to 154, trying to get out of that whole conversation with defending his IBF title against Karen Kugadachin. I hope I'm saying that correctly. As we know, Eddie Hearn lost the bid there, and there were rumors like, oh, Eddie's losing the bid on this and that, and it's, in this case scenario, I very much so doubt that it was about Eddie Hearn losing a bid as much as giving up a bid, being that Jaron Ennis, his fan base, his team, Eddie Hearn, nobody seemed to be interested in having this rematch with Karen. And word was that Jaron Ennis is entertaining vacating that IBF title and making his move up to 154. So naturally looking for a opponent at 154. Word got out that Charles Conwell was the one who's in the crosshairs of making this happen. So Eddie Hearn reached out, put an offer out there. Today, word comes in that Charles Conwell and his team have rejected the offer coming from Eddie Hearn, as the offer is too low. Charles Conwell's team refers to saying that they can make twice as much very easily by fighting Golden Boy's, one of Golden Boy's star contenders, Virgil Ortiz. So here's another bid, another attempt to make a fight that has gone under, hasn't gone under the radar, but has definitely come to hit a wall based on money. So the question has to come at this point: if Charles Conwell, who doesn't even have a belt, is not willing to get in the ring with Jaron Ennis, he needs more money. It's fair to say at this point in time that the Jaron Boots Ennis business is an expensive business, and it looks like Eddie Hearn is not too optimistic about the profitability of the Jaron Boots Ennis in the present time. So what does Jaron Boots Ennis do at this point? Activity is very important in this game. Building his market value up is very important in this game. Jaron Ennis has from what I understand, anywhere from a 3 to 4 fight deal with Eddie Hearn, right? One of those fights already knocked down off the list with the fight he had in Philadelphia, a very successful fight against David Avanesian. So let's just say he has anywhere from 2 to 3 fights left on this contract. What is Eddie Hearn to do? Well, Eddie Hearn believes that right now it is not a profitable thing to pay the highest pay to these fighters in order to make the fight happen. It's only a handful of solutions, right? I mean, one obvious one is to let go of Jaron Boots Ennis, allow him to move on to another promotional company who's willing to spend that kind of money, who can put the time into Jaron Boots Ennis that's needed, and willing to risk huge losses, right? Paying his opponents millions of dollars, clearly, in order to get these fights put together. Jaron Boots Ennis is a generational talent. You'd have to believe that with the right commitment, you could definitely get somebody with his talent, with his showcase talent. He has a very, what's the word I'm looking for? A very commercial style of boxing, a very popular style of boxing, right next to Gervonta Tank Davis, an exciting fighter, beautiful stoppages, beautiful punching power, explosive power. People are comparing him to Roy Jones. They're calling him the Roy Jones of the current era, right? Which is a huge compliment. What big shoes to fill in. What is the best move for Jaron Ennis? If it's not letting go of Jaron Ennis, then Eddie Hearn has to make a decision as to how he's going to approach this. He's going to have to factor in potentially taking some early losses, with the hopes that building up Jaron Ennis's market value, building up his exposure to the space will get him a fan base, get him a following that would at some point in time putting him in the right position, putting him in front of the right dancing partner, will bring back a return on investment that makes sense for Eddie Hearn to justify spending the amount of money that it looks like needs to be spent in order for this for Jaron Ennis' career to move in the right direction. But can Eddie Hearn do that in 3 fights? 2 to 3 fights. Is this something realistic for Eddie Hearn to do? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a promoter, right? I'm not the biggest business guy in the world. I mean, I do my own thing, you know what I mean, a little bit here, and I'm holding it together, but I'm definitely not on the level of a Eddie Hearn. But I would think that it would take more fights, right? It would take more than 2 to 3 fights to do a combination of 2 things, right? A, build up the exposure, build up the market value by overpaying opponents right now, giving the boxing space an opportunity to see Jaron Ennis against these high-level opponents that would build a demand up for him that would ultimately do the second thing that Eddie Hearn would want to do, which is give him an opportunity to reap or get that return on investment on those 1 or 2, maybe even 3 fights that he'd have to overpay on in order to get him there. So a 2 to 3 fight deal, you got to think that Eddie Hearn has some reservation about spending that kind of money, putting those kind of resources behind Jaron Ennis, just to have Jaron Ennis at the end of a deal with him choose to move on, right? I mean, Eddie Hearn has a history of doing this already, right? When you look at his relationship with, like, let's say Anthony Joshua, right? Anthony Joshua and him are linked in. That's family, right? Anthony Joshua's not going anywhere. How many fights have they been involved with that Eddie Hearn has coordinated for Anthony Joshua, from his smallest fights to his biggest fights? Eddie Hearn has a lot of confidence in his relationship with Anthony Joshua and has shown and proved that he's willing to go to extra lengths to get Anthony Joshua in position to be the star that he needs to be, knowing that he's going to get a return on investment on the biggest shows that Anthony Joshua has out there, right? Not to mention coordinating deals with Anthony Joshua with his own athletic line, commercials. I mean, Anthony Joshua is a machine within himself, right? Really just coordinated and built from the ground up by Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn putting that kind of effort into a Jaron Ennis would probably require Jaron Ennis to, give Eddie Hearn that kind of commitment, right? Like, guys, rewind back real quick and think about heading back to when Eddie Hearn spoke about the relationship he had with Devin Haney and how Devin Haney wanted him to do so much for him, and he was making sacrifices for him, took a loss with the Regis Prograis event. Although the stadium supposedly was packed out, the amount of money Devin Haney got paid in order to put that fight together, the amount of money they paid to Regis Prograis in order to put that fight together, I'm not saying I know this for a fact, but rumor has it that Eddie Hearn took a loss on that, right? Just to have on Devin Haney's next fight being with Ryan Garcia, that he wasn't even involved with that fight, right? He couldn't even get any money out of that fight. Then after losing that fight, Eddie Hearn thinking, all right, Devin Haney's coming back here. We need to start rebuilding, rebranding, right? We need to revitalize his career. Let's get him into some fights. Eddie Hearn's in an interview says, listen, we're going to get Devin Haney more than likely. At the time, his mandatory being Sandor Martin, he said Devin Haney's going to vacate that belt. We're going to get him and start putting him in some big fights, as Devin Haney agreed and said that he was looking to become a prize fighter all of a sudden. You guys remember this, right? And you had to think that him and Eddie Hearn came to this understanding that it's time to start making money. You've done the legacy, you've become undisputed, right? You're up in a new division. You gained another championship, right? A WBC championship at 140. Now it's time to become the prize fighter. We can do the legacy thing a little bit later. Let's make money together. Eddie Hearn thinking that they're still on the same page, come to find out that Devin Haney actually had a change of heart and that he still wanted to become undisputed. One of those steps to becoming undisputed was defending his title against Sandor Martin, which once again, another fight that's not going to be profitable for Eddie Hearn, or probably for Devin Haney, being that he's going to get paid regardless. But Eddie Hearn looking at another loss. Keep in mind, guys, Eddie Hearn has a responsibility, and he has to answer to not only his own company, make sure his own company's interests are put up at the front, but also the Zone, right, and other investors that are involved in the machine called Matchroom Boxing and the Zone. Boxing Network. How is he going to explain to them, listen, we're going to continue to keep on taking losses with Devin Haney, knowing that there's a good chance that the next huge opportunity that Devin Haney has in front of him, the promoters who are on the other side of the street of these fights are probably not going to want to do business with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn, once again, going to be on the outside looking in on Devin Haney's biggest money-making opportunities. So it's safe to say, I'm saying that to bring you guys up to speed, to say that Eddie Hearn seems this year to be more focused on his ROI. He seems more focused on making sure that his investments make sense. So working with somebody like Jaron Boots Ennis on a short 3-fight, 4-fight deal, right? One of them already being knocked out. He's already delivered and given Jaron Ennis, Philadelphia, Wells Fargo Center, gave Jaron Ennis his city an opportunity to perform in front of his city. Jaron Ennis, of course, responded accordingly with a great performance. But now going into these next couple of fights, Eddie Hearn may be concerned on his return on investment. It seems like he has a limited amount of resources he's willing to put behind Jaron Boots Ennis in the spirit of being concerned about his return on investment. So what is the solution? Well, one of them, as I said earlier, is they can go in their separate ways, but there is a 3-fight deal. Eddie Hearn has invested already, and we don't know how profitable that first event was. You would think that they might need to revisit the game plan and strategy on how they're going to approach the future of Jaron Boots Ennis. He's 27 years old, 32 fights into his career. It's time to start showing improvement. It's time for Jaron Ennis to get those opportunities and get those big fights. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it matters where he goes. Wherever he goes, there's still going to be a large amount of money that's going to be needed to put behind him in order to get the results you want. You're going to have to invest a lot of time, money, resources, manpower, putting behind Jaron Boots Ennis, a fighter who does great in the ring but doesn't speak for himself. He's not Mr. Enthusiastic. He's not the guy who gets in front of a camera and sells a fight, right? So you're gonna have to do a lot of work to sell him. They may have to revisit the structure of this deal, maybe add a couple of more fights to it, give Eddie Hearn what he needs, which is that security and that understanding that he has a future with this fighter. That way Eddie Hearn can reciprocate and give him the commitment that Jaron Boots Ennis needs and quite frankly deserves for the quality of talent that he is, in order to finally be able to get some confidence enough to take some losses early in Jaron Boots Ennis's journey right now. For the next 2 to 3 fights, really, he needs a machine behind him that's willing to, I don't want to say take a loss, because I know it's, easy to tell somebody to go ahead and take a loss on their money, but you got to making the fights the priority, getting the big fights the priority over the return on investment, if that makes any sense, if you're following me. That's where I'm at with it at this point. When you see Jaron Boots Ennis lose a fight against Brian Norman to unify in his division, now lose against Charles Conwell, who doesn't even have a belt, just to introduce him into 154 pounds, you have to think that this is starting to build up a little bit of a pattern, right? Even Standing Jonas and Mario Barrios have gone on record to say that they've got offers that they went ahead and rejected based on the money not being enough. And it makes sense, because at the end of the day, Jaron Boots Ennis is a huge threat. This guy can derail your career, period. You may have your career heading in a certain trajectory, get in the ring with a fighter like Jaron Boots Ennis, and it can just be derailed. So people are looking to be properly compensated. They want life-changing money to fight this guy, and he's at a point in his career right now where it's barbecue and mildew time. It's either shit on the pot, shit or get off the pot, right? Excuse my French, but you guys get the picture. At the end of the day, there's no more time to play. He's 27 years old. These are his prime years. Jaron Boots Ennis needs a machine behind him that is going to give him the right work, the right commitment to push him where he needs to be. But at the same time, Jaron Boots Ennis may need to reciprocate that to whoever he decides to work with. He needs to reciprocate some sort of commitment to a company who's going to be willing to put that work behind him. You guys let me know what you think. I'm just sitting here, running through my brain, and I'm sitting here like, man, this is crazy, man. Jaron Boots Ennis really needs to come up with something here. It needs to make sense, and it needs to make sense quick, because he's right now looking like he's about to vacate a title that he couldn't even fight for because it wasn't profitable to fight against, and they stripped that title from the current undisputed champion in Terrence Crawford, gave him that. He got another fight, but he hasn't even an opportunity to even fight a champion. And now that he's with a new entire outfit, and the outfit is trying to get him fights, they are asking for the most money in the world. And you almost can't fault them, right? He's such a threat. Anybody he gets in the ring with has to entertain losing. Obviously, they're going to go in there thinking they can win. But, you know, with Jaron Boots Ennis, you have to consider the reality of the situation. And it looks like they are considering that reality of what it could end up being. And they want to make sure the worst case scenarios that they're walking away with some life-changing money. You guys let me know in the comments what you think. What is the best move for Jaron Boots Ennis to do at this point? Does he walk away from Eddie Hearn, or does he fully buy into and commit a little bit more to Eddie Hearn to allow Eddie Hearn the security, the coverage that he needs to feel and understand that he has in order to be able to fully commit and to take the proper steps in investing in Jaron Boots Ennis? I'm sure we're going to have people who's going to go in multiple different directions with this. I'm going to be interested in seeing the ideas that the community has on what they think, what you guys think is a good move, because Jaron Boots Ennis needs a change at this point. This isn't working, guys. This isn't working. We know this isn't working. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hey, this is your boy Claymore. It's the ATP Combat Media Show. Once again, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, I'm going to invite you to go ahead and do that. Go ahead and hit your bell icons as well, so you're getting alerts when I'm dropping this content. All right. And remember to hit the like button for the algorithm. I appreciate you guys. Salute to all my subscribers who are currently here. And at this point, we was in. Now we out.